cautioning against what he called the doctored narratives, now seeking to run down India's growth story. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar has spoken up. There's a big statement that has come in from the Vice President of the country, who said, and I quote him here, "Dumping of information was another way of invasion." Now remember, Dhankar's remarks come even as income tax authorities continue with the survey of the office of the BBC in Delhi and Mumbai for the third day. But it's a big moment because the Vice President of the country, Jagdeep Dhankhar, has given out a statement saying there are doctored narratives that seek to run down India's growth story, and that even this dumping of information is another way of invasion. This, remember, is in the backdrop and what has been already unfolding with the searches and the survey at the BBC offices.
Vicious tendency has grown, particularly amongst so-called intelligentsia in our country, that anything coming from outside is sanctified, elevated, coming from minds that have to be respected. We have to question it.
Let me now bring in my colleague Akshay Dongre for the latest on that. Akshay, because there's a Vice President saying that it's a big statement and he's alleging that these are doctored narratives, but did he name the BBC or was it more of a generic comment? In fact, stay on with me because already more reactions are coming in of our politicians. Majid Memon, who's now with the Trinamool Congress, is joining me. Mr. Memon, when the Vice President says, and they're keeping it generic, there are doctored narratives, this is a way to run down India's growth story, this is another invasion. What do you say to that, sir?
You see, Vice President, with due respect to him, should be an independent person holding a very high constitutional position. He ceases to be a BJP leader, and he must not act or speak or do anything that would show that he has got leaning towards Bharatiya Janata Party or its leaders. Now, in this particular documentary, certainly
on behalf of the BJP,
the topmost leader of BJP is in the dock as far as documentary is concerned, and then the Vice President certifying that it's a doctored documentary. I think it does not lie in his mouth that he should give a certificate of it being doctored when the matter is still sub judice, when the inquiry is going on, and BBC can certainly retaliate by saying that what evidence does the Honorable Vice President of India have to call it a doctored documentary. Now, this is nothing, but he's speaking as an admirer of Prime Minister Modi, not as the Vice President of India.
What do you say to him saying that this dumping of information is another way of invasion? Of course, all of this is in the background and simultaneously as we have the tax seat on the BBC.
No, I think, you see, a dignified position, which the highest, second highest position in the country, the Vice President of India, must not involve himself into such controversies by saying that BBC has published something doctored or it is motivated, etc., when there is no evidence till now as to the genuineness or otherwise of the documentary, which is under probe.
All right, Mr. Majid Memon, thank you very much for speaking to India today, and he's here saying that this did not sound like an independent word is what he has said, but we'll listen in again once quickly to what Jagdeep Dhankhar, the Vice President of the country, has said about doctored narratives and another way of information invasion.
Vicious tendency has grown, particularly amongst so-called intelligentsia in our country, that anything coming from outside is sanctified, elevated, coming from minds that have to be respected. We have to question it.
Akshay Dongre for the latest on that. Akshay, he doesn't look like that he's taken the direct name of the British broadcaster, but this is a generic statement, but it is in the background of what's already unfolding. Do tell us about the political showdown over these statements that have come in and what's happening at the BBC too. Akshay.
Well, Pooja, not only this statement coming in from the vice president is significant because the vice president he is the vice president, but
Yes.
the other importance is also that the audience was no common people. These were the probationers of the Indian Information Services. These are the people who will, in fact, come out of the institutions and in fact run the entire broadcast associations that in fact administer our country. These are people who will be high-ranking officials in the Indian Information Services, and that is why there is a lot of significance to what the Vice President has said as well. Now, while he has not directly named the BBC, but it is clear from the jibe that the Vice President has taken that he has been talking about the raids that have been happening, the documentary that has been published by the BBC that was also blocked by the Indian government on social media websites. Now, the talking point about the statement that has come from
Yes.
the Vice President is about how the West is trying to jeopardize by dumping information India's growth. And this is not just the Vice President who has spoke about it, but we have seen that time and again the Foreign Minister of India,
Yes.
Dr. S. Jaishankar, has also spoken on these lines that while we are on a growth trajectory, there are going to be hurdles, there are going to be powers who will not like it, and there are going to be agendas and efforts to stop India's growth and to rather malign the image of the country. However, the opposition has not taken lightly the statement that has come from the Vice President. They have
Yes.
attacked these kind of statements. They have in fact questioned the Vice President, stating that why is the Vice President talking about this documentary that has been published by a foreign broadcaster.
Akshay,
and
also can we say that this time, of course, there are reactions coming from all sides. So Jagdeep Dhankhar believes that these are doctored narratives. These are also an information warfare that is happening against India's growth story. But there's this united opposition. So do tell us basically how there has been a political showdown over and since the BBC is facing the tax heat of the Income Tax Department over tax irregularities.
Well, clearly the opposition has linked these tax raids that are going on right now for the past 3 days to the documentary that was published by the BBC barely a month back. The opposition has charged allegations on the government that this is, in fact, this is the action that has been taken is because that it's directly linked to the documentary that the BBC has made that questioned Prime Minister Narendra Modi's role in the Godhra riots when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, and that is the reason opposition has in fact rallied to criticize the government over these kind of raids. It's not just the opposition, but there are civil society members as well who are questioning the raids. There are, in fact, the Press Club of India also issued a statement questioning the raids that are going on. So overall, the government is being questioned over these raids that have come immediately after the BBC had in fact put out that documentary.
Keep tracking all the latest, the reactions and what's unfolding at the BBC office also. And remember, he's the Vice President of the country, Jagdeep Dhankhar. So his statement, of course, clearly having that pull as well when he says it's also dumping of information, another way of invasion, information warfare that he's alleging. There are doctored narratives that cannot and should not be allowed. This is against India's growth story.